Welcome back for another deep dive with us. I think we've all been there. That feeling where, exciting opportunities are right there, but it feels like there are just too many risks to even try.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Today, we're going to do a deep dive into why we tend to overestimate those risks, but then underestimate all those amazing opportunities that are out there, and maybe how to shift that balance, so we can actually reach for those opportunities.
Yeah.
This deep dive is based on this really interesting article by Ravindra Sataful.
Okay.
It's called Why We Tend to Overestimate Risks and Underestimate Opportunity.
Catchy.
It is, right. So I think one of the most fascinating things is how this isn't just like a personality quirk, some people are just risk averse and some people aren't.
Right.
But it's really deeply rooted in evolution
Oh, wow.
and psychology.
Yeah.
And even the way the world just presents information to us.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's fascinating how this tendency really is something embedded in us, from way back when all the way to how our brains work now.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the article starts off talking about evolution, right?
Okay.
Back in the day, our brains were wired for survival.
Right, survival.
Spotting danger, it was the difference between, life or death.
Definitely, yeah. Our ancestors who were good at avoiding threats, they were the ones that survived, right? And passed on those genes.
Exactly.
So it makes sense that we've inherited that kind of risk radar, super sensitive to anything that could be dangerous.
Oh, risk radar, I like that. Is that still serving us?
Well, that's the thing. It was great for them, back then. But now, sometimes our risk radar, it's a little overactive.
Okay.
It might be making us see danger, even when there really isn't any. So we miss out on some really good opportunities.
It's like a false alarm.
Yeah, exactly. It's like having, a smoke detector, but it goes off every time you make toast.
Yeah.
You know, you're not going to burn the house down, but it sure is annoying.
Oh, that's a good one. Okay.
Yeah.
But how does that play out in our everyday lives? Are we all just walking around terrified of burnt toast?
Well, not exactly, but think about it. Have you ever had a job offer, a really good one, maybe even a promotion, but then you hesitate to take it because you're worried about, leaving your current job, the comfort of what you know.
Yeah.
Or what about if you had a great business idea?
Okay.
But you talk yourself out of it because you only focus on, what if it fails?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Instead of thinking about, well, what if it succeeds?
Yeah. That's so relatable. I think we've all been there, right? It's that fear of the unknown, and it just kind of overshadows the good things that could happen.
Yeah.
Is that part of this loss aversion thing that the article mentions?
Exactly. Loss aversion is basically this idea that losing something hurts way more, psychologically, than gaining something of the same value feels good.
Interesting.
So our brains are kind of programmed to protect us from loss, even if it means we miss out on something good.
So it's we're programmed to play it safe.
In a way, yeah.
Even if it means sacrificing growth or opportunities.
A tough balance.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you add in our natural love for, that comfort zone. Stepping outside of that even a little bit, you can feel whoa, this is really scary. The article talks about how entrepreneurs often overestimate their chances of failing.
Okay.
And that's because they're so focused on what they could lose, time, resources, even their reputation.
Makes sense.
It's all connected, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. We're wired to avoid loss, and then we just like to stay in our comfort zone. But staying there, that doesn't really lead to growth.
No, you're right.
So is there any way to break free?
There are definitely strategies we can use.
Okay, good.
The article talks about them. But before we get into all that, I want to ask you, have you ever felt like that fear of risk or loss has made you miss out on something that could have been, really great?
Yeah, I think I have. It's hard to know for sure.
Right.
But I can definitely think of times when I've held myself back because of that fear,
It's really common.
Yeah. But I think it's not just us, right?
No, definitely not.
Our environment kind of feeds into this too, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Think about all the news we see, all the time. It's all about, crises, disasters, problems. It's whoa, the world is a scary place.
Yeah.
And while it's important to, stay informed, all that negativity, it can really make us think that everything is way more dangerous than it really is.
Yeah, it's like if you only watch documentaries about plane crashes, you probably never get on a plane, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But statistically, flying is like the safest way to travel.
For sure. So how do we filter all that out?
Well, one thing you can do is be really careful about where you get your information.
Okay.
Well, don't just stick to one news source.
Right.
Or just one social media platform.
Yeah.
Try to get information from a bunch of different places so you can see different perspectives.
Makes sense.
It's about getting a more balanced view, right?
Mm-hmm. And I think it goes beyond just the media, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
There are all these societal norms that can influence how we see risk too.
Totally. Think about all the messages we hear growing up. Get a stable job.
Yeah.
Don't rock the boat.
Mm-hmm.
Play it safe.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And while all those messages come from a good place,
right,
they can sometimes make us afraid to take risks.
Even calculated risks.
Yeah, even those.
It's like we're taught to put security and stability above everything else.
Right.
Even if it means we might not be, as fulfilled or grow as much.
It's a tough balance to find.
It is. But don't you think taking risks is necessary for progress?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, think about it. If no one ever took a risk,
yeah,
we'd still be living in caves.
Right. Yeah, probably. So how do we find that balance?
Well, the article talks about a few different strategies
Okay.
for getting a better perspective on risk and opportunity.
Okay. Yeah. What are some of those?
Well, one really powerful one is how you think about failure.
Okay.
So instead of seeing failure as this huge, awful thing,
Right.
what if you saw it as a chance to learn?
Okay.
Every time we mess up, we actually learn something.
Yeah.
That helps us do better next time.
That's a good point. It's like that whole growth mindset thing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's all about seeing challenges as chances to learn and grow.
Yeah.
The article even suggests keeping a journal, a failure journal.
Oh, what?
A failure journal where you write down what you learned from your mistakes, big and small.
Oh, that's interesting.
It can help you see patterns,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe figure out how to avoid making the same mistakes again.
Oh, I like that. It's like turning those failures into data points
Exactly.
that can help us make better decisions in the future. But okay, let's say there's a specific opportunity that, you're looking at. How do you actually assess the risk?
That's a great question.
In a way that's realistic and helpful,
Well, there's a process you can follow.
Okay.
The article talks about it.
Yeah.
First, you got to figure out all the possible downsides.
Okay.
What could go wrong.
Right.
Then you got to try to estimate how likely each of those bad things is to actually happen.
Okay.
And then finally, you got to compare those potential risks to the potential rewards.
So it's not just about listing all the bad things that could happen.
Nope.
It's about figuring out how likely they are and then weighing them against the good things that could happen.
Exactly. You got it.
Okay, I think I get that. Can you give me an example?
Sure. Let's say you want to start a business, right?
Okay.
So you're thinking about all the risks, losing money.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's already a lot of competition.
Yeah.
And it's going to take up all your time.
For sure. Those are all risks.
Right. But then you have to really think about it. How much money do you actually need to invest?
Okay.
How tough is the competition, really?
Yeah.
And how much time can you actually commit? By answering those questions honestly,
Yeah.
you get a much better idea of how risky it really is.
So it's taking the emotion out of it and looking at it logically.
Exactly.
That way you're not just making a decision based on fear.
Right. Exactly.
But even when you do all that, sometimes that little voice of doubt still creeps in.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Definitely. I think that's where other people can really help.
Okay.
Having people around you who support you, who believe in you,
Yeah.
they can help you stay on track.
For sure.
Remind you that you're capable,
Yeah. It's amazing how much our friends and family can influence our choices.
They really do.
If you have people around you who are yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
That can make a big difference.
Definitely. The article also talks about actively finding those kinds of people.
Oh, okay.
People who are positive, supportive, but also realistic.
Mm-hmm. But what about when you're just stuck in those negative thoughts?
Oh, yeah. Those are the worst.
Yeah, what if this happens? What if that happens? How do you stop that?
Well, the article has this really cool idea. It's pretty simple, actually.
Okay.
It's about changing those what-if questions.
Okay.
Instead of, what if it all goes wrong?
Mm-hmm.
Try asking, why not?
Why not?
Yeah, like, why not try this? What's the best that could happen?
Oh, okay. So instead of thinking about all the bad things, you're thinking
Mhm.
about the good things that could happen.
It's exactly
So it's
that.
like we can actually choose how we look at these things
Yeah, exactly.
instead of just like letting fear take over.
It's really powerful, right?
It is.
Thank
I
you.
mean, it sounds like we've got all these tools now to like deal with risk and opportunity in a healthier way.
Yeah. We don't have to just let our brains run on autopilot, you know?
Right, right. We can actually understand how our brains work, reframe how we see failure, assess risks, and like you said, find people who support us.
It all works together.
It does. And
Yeah.
and that shift from what if to why not, that's huge.
It really is.
It's like instead of being scared of what we don't know, we can be curious about it.
And maybe even excited about it.
Exactly. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a question.
Okay.
What's one opportunity that you've been wanting to go for, but you've been hesitant?
Maybe you've been putting it off because of, those perceived risks or fear of failing.
Yeah, like maybe starting that business you've always wanted to.
Or going back to school.
Or writing that book you've been thinking about.
Or even just, like, taking a trip somewhere new.
Yeah, or having that tough conversation you've been avoiding.
Anything. Whatever it is for you, I want you to think about what's really stopping you.
Are those risks, like, as big as they seem in your head?
And what could happen, what good things could happen if you actually went for it.
And how can you use what we talked about today to see things differently?
Yeah. To really look at the risks, but also to get excited about the potential.
You find those people who will cheer you on.
Exactly. Remember, sometimes the scariest things are the ones that can help us grow the most.
Don't let fear run the show.
It's your life. Go for it.
That's such a great way to put it. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into risk and opportunity.
It was fun.
It was. We hope this has given you some things to think about and maybe even the courage to go after what you really want.
Don't forget, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep asking why not.
We'll see you next time for another deep dive.